early. I feel like Yin Nidra. It's so nice to have it like dark outside and just nice and cozy when we come in for class. So looks like we are on here. All right, welcome everybody tuning in from home as well. So as far as first of all, my name's Nicole. I know I don't normally teach this class, but I'm filling in tonight. So I'm going to do a little bit of movement, a little bit of yin, and then get really comfortable, more of a restorative type practice and some yoga nidra in there. So a little bit of movement to start. Don't be scared. We're not going to do that much on the movement end. Just kind of warm things up, loosen things up, especially if your day has consisted of a lot of this or a lot of, maybe being in one particular position. Just kind of loosen that body up, stretch it out a little bit, and then just chill is the plan. So a bolster is great to have, as well as a blanket and a couple of blocks. I always feel like, especially in like a yin or restorative class, you can't have too many props, right? Like the more props, the better. Really good thing to be able to support your body. Those of you tuning in from home, if you don't have all those yoga props, if you have a few blankets can go a long way, right? We can kind of fold them up, roll them up in any way that you need to use them. So at the bare minimum, a couple of blankets. If you have blocks, if you have a bolster, the more the merrier. Let's have all those props. So we are just going to briefly start on all fours and like I said, kind of just move things around a little bit and then get into some yin and some stretching, and then close our eyes and a little yoga nidra, aka yoga sleep, aka little yoga nap time. So go ahead and just come onto your hands and your knees. You want to take your hands and make sure that your wrist joints are just a little bit ahead of, a little bit forward of your shoulder joint. If it's bothersome to be on the hands, just make fists. That's always an alternative. Elbows are soft. And just take a moment, close your eyes as you inhale to cow pose. Let your belly dip down, let your heart, your tail lift. And cat pose as you exhale, round the tail under, wrap that spine in, chin to chest. So take a few more at your own pace, belly dropping, back arching as you inhale and back rounding as you exhale. So really just take these opening few movements here to just notice how your body feels. If nothing else, acknowledge your breath. It might take a moment to really kind of lengthen and tap your way into that breath, but it might be the first time today you've really paid any attention to your breathing. So just start to feel your breath and let the movement just start to morph here. So if you're feeling really good with those cat cows, you can always stick with cat cows, but you can also explore a little bit more. So maybe it's some barrel rolls that you're getting into, maybe it's some tail wags, a little movement through your neck, through your head. Just take a few breaths. And I always encourage you to just do this with your eyes closed to avoid, even subconsciously, mimicking anybody else's movements. This should really just be a matter of exploration, just kind of tapping into your body tonight. Keeping in mind that every time you come onto your mat, it's going to be a slightly different experience. And sometimes it just takes a little extra awareness, a little extra focus to really feel that. Notice the parts of your body that are speaking up to you in whatever way. Notice your breath. Come in here towards stillness then. And then keep that left knee on the ground. We're going to take a big breath in, extend the right leg straight back behind you. If you need more stability, you can always walk your hands a touch wider. Give a couple of rolls to that right ankle. So point, flex, roll out that right foot. Take another breath in. And then right foot to the left side as you exhale. So we're coming into a side body stretch. You're going to tap the right toes to the left side of that left foot. Find a nice long spine. And then as you next exhale, peek back at that foot. So look back over that left shoulder. Do push down a little bit through the ball of the foot. So actually, fire up and activate into that leg. Take a couple deep breaths. Really do try to feel some space here through the right side. One more breath. And then inhale your way back through center, leg nice and long behind you. We're going to swing right leg to the right this time. So as if we're coming into gate pose, you're going to set that right foot out. Roughly the arch of the right foot aligns with your left knee. And then walk your hands forward a little bit. Again, you want wrist joints in front of your shoulder. Give yourself some clearance so you can shift the hips front to back a few times. And this, totally up to you in terms of range of motion. If your hips are feeling pretty good, your legs are feeling pretty good, you might drop the hips a little further back, swing the chest a bit further forward. Things are feeling a little bit constricted or tight. Might just be a really small movement. Do try as best you can to just anchor down a little bit through the sole of that right foot to really help activate into your leg. And very much self-guided here. So you can move with your breath, but if you come into a position that you just want to hold, you kind of find that sweet spot, hold. We'll take a couple more breaths. One more inhale here. And then as you exhale, bringing that left hip back above the left knee, slide the right knee back in. So you're back on the hands and the knees. Pause a moment, just give a little reset of the spine. You can pick up the right hand, give it a shake. Pick up the left hand, give it a little shake. And then a little bit here into the right shoulder. So we're going to take a couple rounds of a child's wave. As you inhale, we reach that right hand forward and up to the sky. And then as you exhale, hips towards heels, like child's pose. Head is going to drop towards the floor. Hand is going to reach towards the back wall. As you inhale back to hands and knees, the right hand sweeps forward and up. And as you exhale, hips to heels, that right hand sweeps back and down. So just take a couple at your own pace here. Basically, one full breath is one full circle of your arm. And also just lifting and lowering those hips. If it's too much, just keep your hips lifted and circle the arm. But try to get a nice long reach here, just really getting some movement in through that right shoulder. And there's nothing stiff, there's nothing rigid. So your spine is moving. It's almost like a little twist when you reach the arm up, and then your chest faces down when you reach back. Next time you inhale, right fingertips straight back to the ceiling. And we'll thread the needle. Exhale, dive that right arm underneath. Reach way to the opposite side of the room here. You want your right palm facing up towards the sky. Your hips can stay lifted above your heels here, above your knees, I should say. If that doesn't feel good, you can always scoot back a little bit and just set your hips down as you would in child's pose. So up to you. Do try to make sure you've got a little bit more weight here in your shoulder and in your arm bone than you do in your neck or your head. And then lastly, I know that left arm sometimes can be just kind of awkward. So you can keep it where it lands. If it feels good, you can also loop that left hand behind your back, just keeping in mind that might put a little bit more pressure onto your arm. Give it about 3 more breaths. So just take a moment. Let that breath be just as strong here and as steady as it can be. One more breath in. And now stay like you are, but as you exhale, just push that left hand into the floor. So left hand back under your shoulder. We'll unwind as you inhale. Take a breath in and reach that right hand right up towards the sky. Nice long stretch. And exhale, lower the right hand down. And coming briefly off the hands here, just lower down into a really modified puppy pose. So we'll take our elbows under our shoulders. Let the belly start to drop down, your tailbone lift to sky, chest melts towards the floor. Obviously a little bit of a back bend here. So if this is too much, just don't drop quite as far. The more you release the chest, the higher you lift the hips, the more you're going to feel. So just a couple more deep breaths. One more breath in. Full breath out. Just let it all go. And as you next inhale, start by lifting the head, just a little tiny tuck of the tail, pushing away from the mat, and then ground both your palms, rise back up all fours. Give it a couple movements, roll, wag, sway, just move it around a bit. And then from here, we'll switch sides. So spread those fingers nice and wide, elbows soft, wrist joints under or slightly forward of your shoulder. We'll inhale the left leg straight back. Start by rolling that ankle a couple times, point and flex your toes, just get some movement in and around that ankle joint. Take another big breath in. And then on your exhale, left foot over to the right, push down a little bit into the ball of the foot. So finding that side bend, you're going to keep as much length as you can through the spine. Take a peek back, look at that left foot. Try to feel some good space down your whole left side now. Just a couple deep breaths. One more big breath here. And then inhale, pick that leg up, straight back behind you, moving towards that gate variation as you exhale. So your left foot is going to come out to the left. Again, more or less aligning with your right knee. do push down into the sole of that foot, walk the hands forward, and then play a little bit. Always start small. A little bit of movement here, shifting the hips front to back, and just working your way here into this side. Just keep in mind, as we go through this side, oftentimes a little bit of asymmetry in the body. You might find this side to be a little looser. You might find this side to be a little tighter. So try to be present enough that you're taking note, you're noticing, you're feeling. Letting go of your day, whatever today was, just letting that be not here and focus on what is here. Couple more breaths. And then as you inhale back to more of that neutral pelvis here, hips above the right knee, walk the left knee in, walk your hands under your shoulders. Give a little reset of the spine. We're going to keep the right hand down as we move in through that child's wave on the left side. So inhale, left hand forward and up. Chest turns to the side well, and then exhale, hips back and down. Belly to lap, hand towards the floor behind you. Breathing in as you drag that hand along the floor. Reach up and out. And exhale, back and down. Again, just take it at your own pace. Your breath might match nobody else's, and that is all good. Just try to find a breath that really works for you, a nice, steady, strong breath. At the same time, one that doesn't take too much effort. Whenever you next inhale, fingertips lift straight up. Stretch long through that wingspan. And then dive underneath as you exhale, reaching to the opposite wall. Lightly resting down onto the upper arm bone. Hips can stay stacked above your knees here, or again, if you prefer, you can always drop more towards a child's pose. Right hand can stay, right hand can loop behind. Always important to pay attention to your neck, make sure we're not putting too much pressure here on the neck. Weight nice and heavy in that arm bone. You should be feeling a good stretch here through the shoulder, and breathe. Take another breath in. And just the arms. We're going to exhale that right hand back to the mat. Spread wide in the right fingers and inhale as you unwind. Push through the hand, big reach, big lift. And exhale, hand back to the mat. Again, from here, just give it a little roll, a little shake. I'm going to inch a little bit closer to the top of your mat for Sphinx pose. Elbows come parallel. You've got, or forearms come parallel, I should say. Elbows come roughly underneath your shoulders here. And as you gently set your pelvis down on the mat, try to widen the space between your feet a bit. So feet a little bit wider than your hips. You're going to feel like your heels drop a little more open towards the side of the room, just to create a little bit more broadening through that sacrum, that low back area. Now, this is too much. Bring your elbows as far forward as you need to. So this can be a little bit of a lift here, obviously. If it's too intense on your low back, the further forward you bring the elbows, you can even just stack the hands and rest your forehead on your hands. Is going to be a little bit more gentle. I'm going to be here for not a long time, but a longish time. So make sure that you're feeling fairly comfortable here, and give yourself the permission as we start to get a little bit more into some of the yin poses, a little bit longer holds, right? Feel free at any point to modify. Nothing has to be static. Nothing has to be still. You can take little micro movements. You can change it up. You can reposition any part of your body. But try to be present enough that you're actually feeling what's going on and giving yourself the space, the permission to do that. I'm not saying the mind won't wander, because probably already has, to be real. Every time you notice that happening, just take your biggest possible breath in, your biggest possible breath out, just a centering breath. Rein yourself back in. And once again, just start tracking the breath. If you are comfortable closing the eyes, just let the eyes softly close, and notice in your body any areas that you tend to hold stress. So if you're someone who clenches the jaw, try to consciously soften your jaw. If you're somebody who makes fists, soften a little bit through the palms of the hands. And make sure that your neck here is in a comfortable spot. So if your eyes were open, you'd be looking a bit more towards the floor out in front of your mat rather than straight ahead. You're going to take another 5 to 6 big breaths. It's like you have all the time in the world here. Just keep that breath nice and strong, nice and steady. Another big breath in. And then stack your hands, and as you exhale, just slowly lower down, forehead onto your stacked hands. You can start with just a little wag of your tail, a little shake out of your hips. Just release a bit into that low back. And then if it feels all right, lift your feet. Windshield wiper those feet a few times from side to side. Take a big breath in. And then feet down to the floor as you exhale. Bring your hands by your sides, palms up, one ear to the floor. Take about 3, 4 of your biggest breaths here, just really melting down really effortlessly into your mat. So putting very little work into this. Just let your body sink in. Another breath. And then simply lift, bring that opposite ear down towards the floor. Again, just a couple of your deepest breaths, really allowing yourself to settle in. One more breath. And then that next inhale, bringing your nose back in towards center. Slide your hands under your shoulders. Take a deep breath in. Start to firm the belly and use some of that core strength as you exhale to push back up, lifting back to the hands and the knees. Give it just a couple deep breaths. We're going to take a few breaths in child's pose here in just a moment, but if you need to just kind of move things around a little bit en route, take as many breaths as you need on all fours, but eventually you're going to widen your knees enough, giving your torso some space, and gently release down, setting your forehead onto the mat. So do try to just make it as passive as possible. If you need a little support for the head, so you do want your head to touch down, you can always use your hands stacked underneath your forehead. And spacing between the knees is pretty important. So pay attention if there's any compression, pinching, discomfort around the hip sockets. You can try taking your knees a little wider, a little closer together till you find that sweet spot. You've got all your props. So if there's a lot of space between your hips and heels, perhaps tucking a blanket or bolster between them. And just allowing the body to be heavy. So your arm bones resting on the mat. Your body just sort of melting into space here. Try to feel the fullness of your breath. So slowly breathing in and feeling how much air you can take in, really feeling that expansion, that fullness at the top of your breath. A little bit of a lift, and then as you exhale, everything just drops in. Slowly releasing every drop of that breath. Just continuing to breathe here, the pace that works for you. Staying present and just taking in what you're noticing here in your space. So feel the points of contact here of your body onto your mat. Body nice and heavy, just kind of sinking down into the mat. Taking in and noticing the temperature of the air, maybe the way that the clothing hugs the body here. And really feeling and noticing any movement that you get from the breath. So breathing deeply enough that you do feel the rib cage move with every breath you take. Just really feeling and noticing which body parts move when you breathe. Finding a long, steady breath, more or less the same duration, inhales and exhales. Just a few more big breaths. And take your time. You can keep your eyes closed if you like, just slowly rising back to all fours, lifting the head, plugging your hands down into your mat. And then one of two options. If downward dog is a pose that you like and that feels good, you can lift your hips, take a good strong pedal of your legs. If that's not your favorite, just keep one of your knees on the floor. Your opposite leg reaches back behind you with the toes tucked so that we can stretch out the back of the leg. You'll take a few breaths on that side and then switch. So up to you. If you're in down dog, move it around a little bit, pedal out your legs. If you are doing the one leg at a time, do be sure to switch. Another big breath. And then all fours once again, both of your knees back to the mat. You're going to grab hold of your blanket or your bolster here. We're going to take just a little bit in seated and then come down onto our backs for some more restorative and nidra. So let's just get a little hip stretch in here before we come down. So you can have a seat here, either onto your folded blanket, your bolster, just depending on the height that you like to have your hips. But a couple of options. If it is bothersome on your body at all to sit cross-legged, you can always use some props. You can use blankets, block something underneath your knees. You can use your feet for a little bit of support. So you're kind of supporting your shin bones here with your feet. If your hips are a bit more open and you want a little bit more, you can not use your feet for support, to sort of align your feet with one another here. Your knees a touch wider. Big thing, try to get as heavy as you can through both of your sit bones. So we're not sitting lopsided. A lot of times when you actually really start to pay attention, you can feel that you might be a little heavier in one sit bone than the other. You want to get as grounded as you can. Sometimes that just takes a breath or two of a little bit of movement. So once you're there, roll those shoulders back and down. Take just a moment, flip the palms of the hands to the sky. Close your eyes and take about 3 just big centering breaths here. Deepest possible breaths you can take. If you like to sigh that exhale out, a little extra release, feel free. We'll take another big breath in. And you can either stay here or this time as you exhale, hinge from your hips and just start to tilt forward. And that might simply mean coming down onto your fingertips. You may be down onto your palms. If you're not quite ready to take those elbows to the floor, you could put a folded blanket or a block underneath your elbows. If you're taking those elbows down to the floor, perhaps a blanket or block underneath the forehead. So you've still got your hips elevated up onto whatever you're sitting on here. And you're getting that nice hinge from the hips. So big thing here when we fold forward, you want your belly button to point in towards your lap, as opposed to getting really rounded through your low back. So we're really targeting outer hips. Most likely, whichever leg you have crossed in front, you'll be getting more into that outer hip. And if you do want to get a little bit rounded, a little bit slumpy through the upper body, completely fine. But again, try to keep that low back lengthened. Be here for about 10 breaths total. So a little bit of time, and with time, you might notice things starting to shift, starting to change a little bit. Maybe you drop in a touch more deeply. Maybe you kind of get to your edge here and you back out a bit. Again, paying attention, so important here. Take another breath. And take a couple breaths if you need to transition. We'll start by inhaling and just slowly lifting the head. Taking your time as you slide your hands back in towards your body. Eventually, with the eyes still closed, coming back to as we began, just a nice tall seat. Another deep breath. And we're going to switch the cross of the legs. So just try to remember for a couple moments which leg is in front. If you tend to forget that, put a block on that side. But I want you to take a moment and just roll your ankles, stretch out your legs a little bit before we hop right into the other side. You can use your hands, tilt forward a little bit, just release into the legs. Take another just couple of breaths. And then as you come into the opposite cross, the other leg is now crossed in front. And just remember, you might feel different on the side. You have all those same options. You can use your feet or not. You can use any props you like to help support the knees. Probably here your non-habitual side, so likely that might feel just a little bit tighter, a little bit different. So do what you got to do to get things situated, fairly well grounded. And once you do feel like you're pretty heavy through both of your sit bones, just rest the hands and start taking a few slow little neck circles here. So you can do half circles ear to ear if you have a healthy neck and you want to drop the head back, also an option. But try to move slowly enough that you're actually aware of what you're doing and you're actually feeling what's going on in your body. And then at some point, switch directions. Take another big breath in. And then just come to stillness as you exhale, finding a comfortable position for your head. One more breath in here. And work towards that forward fold as you exhale. So again, there's that little hinge from the hips. You can tilt forward a little. You can come down as deep as you are comfortable with, just making sure sit bones do stay grounded. You're really hinging from the hips, so we're accessing into that outer hip. Once you have your body set up in a shape, you got some time to refine. So if anything feels a little bit awkward, if anything feels a bit uncomfortable, see what you can do to get it more comfortable. Feel like it's more the props, the pose, or the body parts and gravity that's helping hold you in this shape. You're not putting in a ton of physical or muscular effort. You can take deep breaths. So if anything about the way your body's situated is kind of inhibiting your breath, see what you can do to fix that. And then again, just allow yourself to melt in. One more breath. And again, there's no rush at all. Take your sweet time with the eyes closed, lifting your head, walking your hands back in, and as long as you need, just taking your time to rise back to seated. And whenever you do get to seated, you can take a few neck rolls once again. Take another breath. And then from here, we're going to be coming down onto our backs and, like I said, doing a little bit more restorative, kind of getting into the Yoga Nidra. So For now, go ahead and just take your legs out wide, get a little release in here through the back of the legs. So you're going to need your bolster and your blanket. So again, those of you from home, if you have a couple blankets, you're going to roll one of your blankets to be kind of a thick fold like a bolster would be. And then everyone is going to take their blanket and make sure it's at least as wide as the width of your mat here. So unfold it so it's at least as wide as the width of your mat. And we're just going to take it and we're going to be coming into mountain brook pose, which is a little bit of a back bend. You're going to be using that rolled blanket back, kind of intersecting your spine to lift the chest. So if you're someone who doesn't like a very deep back bend, and keep in mind, we're going to be here a good 10 minutes, we're going to be here a while, go pretty thin. So don't overdo it, because with time, it's just going to get more intense. If you like a little bit more of a back bend, you can fold it a bit thicker. But again, if you're not sure, err on the side of a pretty thick fold, because what feels one way after a minute feels pretty different after 10. If you are a little bit chilly, tend to get cold, absolutely suggest having another blanket to cover up. It's really hard to relax if you're a little bit chilly. So do please cover up if you're cold. What we're going to do, so again, the name of the pose is mountain brook pose. So the visualization is really like your body's like water kind of flowing over some little rocks in a stream. So rocks, body. You want to let your body be very fluid. So there's nothing tense, there's nothing rigid. Bolster or blanket is going to come under your legs, and you want to have it closer to your thighs. The intention is to give a bend to your knees. The blanket that is behind your chest is going to be behind your chest. So it is not your low back. It's right behind the chest. And the most important part here, you don't want to put your arms onto the blanket. That's going to close off your chest. You want to roll your arms back, have them on the floor above the blanket, and then your head can come down, again, maybe to another blanket or down onto the floor. So you want to get a bit of a lift to the chest, but it's not anything where you're, feeling a whole lot right now. Like I said, if you're feeling a whole lot right now, you're going to feel a whole lot more partway through. Again, remember, you're not locked in. You can adjust at any time. So if it does become to be too much at some point, you can always take the blanket out from behind you. You can always take a roll or a fold out of the blanket. But really, ideally, you want to find that spot where your body, again, just think water, very fluid, very soft. There's nothing tense. There's nothing tight. You're just sort of draping yourself down over your props. So give it just a couple breaths here. Again, just melt it. I want you to find as little effort to this as possible. So a little opening to the chest, but very gentle. You're going to close your eyes. And just let that awareness start to settle in. So rather than being carried away by thought, you're here. You're feeling your body. And start to move your awareness to your mouth, becoming aware of your tongue. Feeling your tongue heavy in your mouth. Feeling the lower jaw. Lower row of teeth. Upper row of teeth. Upper lip and lower lip. Little space between your lips. Both cheeks. Right ear. Left ear. Forehead. Both temples. Third eye space. Top of the head. Back of the head. Tip of the nose. Right nostril. Left nostril. Right eyelid. Left eyelid. Right eyebrow. Left eyebrow. Hand awareness traveling down to your hands, going to the right hand thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, little finger, the palm of your hand, feeling a softness and a warmth in the palm of your right hand, back of the hand, wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm and shoulder, right armpit, rib cage, waist, hip, right thigh, knee, calf, ankle, heel, sole of the foot, top of the foot, right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, little toe, right side of the body completely relaxed. Moving the awareness to your left hand, the left hand thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, little finger, palm of the left hand, feeling a warmth and a softness to the palm of your left hand. Back of the hand, wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, shoulder, left armpit, ribs, waist, hip, left thigh, knee, calf, ankle, heel, sole of the left foot, top of the foot, left big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, little toe, right buttock, left buttock, lower back, mid back, upper back, right shoulder blade, left shoulder blade, back of the neck, navel, lower abdomen, whole spine, the whole head, right arm, left arm, both arms together, the whole right leg, the whole left leg, both legs together, whole front body, whole back body. Be aware of your whole body. Whole body relaxed, whole body soft. Now bringing your awareness to your breath, following the gentle tide of your breath without changing it. And envision your breath as a golden light flowing up and down your spinal column. With your inhale, the golden light flows from the tailbone to the crown of the head. And with your exhale, it flows from the crown of the head back down to your tailbone. Cosmic tide of prana. Stay with your breath as it flows up and down your spinal column. Golden, vibrant, radiant. Another big breath. And as we transition, do so very slowly. You can start by bending the knees a bit more deeply, either resting your feet to your bolster or just sliding the bolster out of the way. Another big breath. And then just tilt to one side just enough to slide that blanket out from behind your back. And come down just right onto your back here, nothing underneath your spine. Give it a few big breaths. Any movement here that appeals to you, whether it's a little stretch or wiggle. And then eventually we're going to be butterflying the legs here. So I would suggest using some support because we're going to be here for a little bit of time. So you can bring the soles of your feet to come together here. If you like, you can use your bolster and just let your heels maybe drop onto one side of the bolster here, your sit bones on the other, or you can use a blanket in that same position here. So the blanket tucked in a little bit closer to your thighs so that you have some good support here for your leg bones. Your knees dropping open to the side. Alternatively, you could use 2 rolled up blankets, one under each knee. That gives some good support here to the legs. And then with the arms, just take one hand onto your heart and the opposite hand onto your belly. I want you to be able to actually feel the warmth, feel the contact here of your hands on your torso. Make sure that your legs are pretty supported. You're feeling good here. And again, just coming back to that breath, that golden light traveling up and down the spine. Feeling how when you inhale, the hand that's on the belly rises first, followed by the hand on the heart. The opposite on exhale, the hand that's on your heart drops first, followed by the hand on your belly. So you're going to just take it at your own pace here. Couple deep breaths, just feeling that warmth, that golden light traveling up and down the spine. In your mind's eye, just imagining that you are standing outside in nature. You feel your bare feet on the earth. Standing in an open meadow surrounded by a lush forest. You tip your face upward and feel the warmth of the sun. Smell the wildflowers in the air. In the distance, you see a path leading into the forest. You walk towards the path and step into the forest. Once inside, your eyes adjust to the shade of the trees. The path continues in front of you and winds easily up the hill. Slowly taking a few steps, feeling the earth beneath your feet. You continue on the path as it climbs steadily uphill. And near the top of the hill, you see a small opening in the side of the mountain. This opening is a cave. You feel drawn to the cave and walk towards it. Within the cave, you see a single lit candle and realize you've stumbled upon a sacred temple. You sit down upon the earth, and a sense of calm washes over you. You feel at peace with all that is. You need nothing from the outside world. And you gaze into the candle flame. You drop deep into meditation. And in the middle of the flame, you see the purest golden seed, untouched by the flame. And on the surface of the seed, you see a message inscribed. A message meant just for you. Taking a moment to acknowledge what that might be, something that you've been perhaps trying to manifest into your life. Gazing into the flame once again. The seed is no longer in the flame. The seed is now in your heart. In your own mind, repeating this message 3 times internally and with meaning. Take another big breath. And using your hands, reach the hands down, press into the outer legs, and just touch the knees back together. Bringing the soles of the feet onto the floor. You're just going to heel toe your feet a bit wider apart. So now your feet are wide, your knees knocked together. And then taking the arms, and as you inhale, wrap yourself in a tight little bear hug. Just let those arms drape across the rib cage here. Pretty tight little bind of the arms. Just noticing if the arms are fairly heavy, just make sure you're still able to breathe deeply. Take another breath. And then from here, we're simply going to switch the cross of the arms. So take your arms, wrap the opposite arm in closer. And again, a little bear hug. And that next inhale, unwinding the arms. You can grab hold of either your rolled blanket or your bolster and just place it over to your left side. We're going to move into a supported twist. So you've got your rolled blanket or your bolster over on the left side of your body, pretty close in, kind of down by the waistline, the hip area here. We'll take a breath in, grab your knees, hug your knees in towards your heart, and give yourself a little squeeze, maybe a little rock from side to side. And then as you're ready, roll your knees over to the left, coming down to rest onto that blanket or bolster. And you can just feel in your body how much support feels good. So if you want more support, bolster, blanket in closer. If you want less, a little further away. Big thing is to keep your shoulders on the floor, in particular your right shoulder here. And if there's a lot of space between your knees, you can also take one of your props, tuck it in between your knees. Support, a really good thing for the body here. And again, just close your eyes, feel the warmth of your breath. Once again, that golden warm light, a part of the breath rising up the spine as you inhale. And rising or rolling back down as you exhale. Take another breath in and engage your core. Exhale, bring it back to center, your knees coming back to your chest. Feel like a little rock, a little sway, and transition that blanket or bolster over onto the right side. Taking another deep breath in, knees hugging tight. And then knees over to the right side this time. As you exhale, your knees are going to come to land to whatever degree of support you like on that bolster. Arms out with your left shoulder on the ground. Always making sure that your neck, your head are in a comfortable spot. One more big breath in. And again, as you exhale, strong core, lift back up, knees to chest. Take a couple of breaths. You can hug the knees in, perhaps in just gentle little circles of the knees to help reset that low back. We are moving from here into Shavasana. So if there's anything else that your body would like before you get settled into your Shavasana, this is kind of your last little chance here. Consider setting some props up, maybe that bolster back behind your knees if you need a little extra sense of grounding tonight. The folded blanket crossed or laid across the hips and pelvis can be nice. Of course, if there's anything else you like, if there's a different shape you prefer, really just indulge your body in whatever it is that feels best to you. Take up as much space as you like, use any props that you like, and just really do your best to get comfortable. And together, we'll take the biggest breath in here that you can possibly take. Pausing at the top, feeling the fullness. Big exhale. Releasing every drop of that breath. And with that release of breath, also releasing any effort, any control, really any observation here. So rather than continuing to pay attention to your breath, instead, just let yourself go. Take a few moments, let yourself just release from it all. And start to notice, start to deepen your breath once again, just reconnecting with your breath, feeling the fullness of your breath. And as your breath deepens, small movements, little wiggles of your fingers, your toes. Gentle roll of ankles and wrists, slowly shake the head no. And as you next inhale, full body reach. Let's stretch, lengthen the body long. And the exhale, knees bend, hug your knees in towards your heart. Take a big breath in, take a big squeeze. And as you exhale, roll over either side, wherever you're most comfortable, and just pause to settle in. Take a deep breath. And as you gently begin to feel your way up to a tall seat, consider transitioning with the eyes closed and just really keeping that awareness within. Just finding a comfortable seat. Feeling the anchoring of your sit bones, hands can simply rest heavy onto your lap. And ease to your breath. Move hands into your heart space. Feeling the warmth of your palms as they come together. And closing this evening with one final shared breath on that next inhale, arms sweep overhead. Take a long reach here, a big stretch, palms connect. Exhale, hands to heart. Thank you all so much for being present here this evening to share your breath, your energy, your practice. Have a beautiful night and namaste. Thank you all so much. Hopefully go home and continue to relax and take your time. I know it can be a little bit jarring to like jump up after yoga nidra. So sit, do what you got to do, take your time, and get in the right headspace before you drive home. And those of you at home, keep it chill. Thanks, everyone.